Welcome in everyone, I am Jordan with Ravens Flash Report, and today I'm going to be sharing a preview of honestly one of the most anticipated games of the week. The Seattle Seahawks are coming to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. We got players to watch on both sides, we got specific position group battles that I'm looking forward to seeing, and I'm going to be sharing with you my keys to victory for both teams in what I expect to be an exciting matchup between two division leaders. Alright, let's get to it.
They're going to get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that. Believe that. I'm a Raven. It's on. All year. Every year.
At 5-2, the Seahawks lead their division and are coming off a big win over the Ravens' AFC North rivals Cleveland Browns. The Ravens, meanwhile, just finished handing another loss to the Seahawks' NFC West rival, Arizona Cardinals, giving them another win and an overall record of 6-2. The Seahawks this season defensively have been good, mostly between the 20s, and have struggled stopping teams on third down and keeping them out of the end zone once they get inside the 20s, but that seems to be getting a little bit better for them over the last couple of games. The Ravens, on the other hand, are statistically superior on defense in almost every category. The one they aren't? Rushing defense, which is a bit of a shock for the Ravens franchise that pride themselves on stopping the run, which they are going to have to do if they want to slow down two good young running backs on the Seattle team. So offensively, these teams are a great matchup for each other, with both teams being in the upper half of the league in total yards and in scoring. Ravens are as usual in the top 5 of rushing metrics, and what I haven't shown here is that they're also number 1 in rushing attempts, with 259 on the season. Meanwhile, the Seahawks tend to have more balanced style of offense, but they are leaning slightly more towards the pass, with what is sure to be the best wide receiver room the Ravens have seen since Cincinnati. I'm just glad that we have Marlon on the way back to full health and Brandon Stevens playing the best football ever right now. So, let's get to these players to look out for, and we're going to start with Seattle's running backs. Although Walker is for sure the feature back for this offense, last week we saw a fairly even split of carries, with Walker going for 66 yards on 8 carries and Charbonnet picking up 53 yards off of 5 carries. They also both saw 2 receptions each. Both of these backs provide a different element, just like the Ravens' backfield, with Walker being more the thunder to Charbonnet's lightning, but I wouldn't say it's quite as black and white as that. Both of these backs have shown that they're capable of being their own thunder and lightning, and making it a nightmare for defenses to know which play call is coming. Speaking of nightmares, I present one of the scariest, if not the scariest, 3-headed monsters of a passing attack in the league. So this is where I start to rant about what the Ravens could potentially be, with Mark, Zay, and Bateman, but we'll get into that later when we cover the Ravens wide receivers. Now, I don't think just one of these guys is going to pull an A.J. Brown and go off for 150 yards or 2 touchdowns. At least I hope not, but they potentially could. But they will kill you with a well-balanced rotation of workload. A pass to Lockett, then a short crosser to JSN, a third down catch by Metcalf, a screen pass to Lockett, an out route to JSN. You get it. It's a spread offense, and it's going to be the biggest challenge yet for this secondary that so far has been one of the best in the league. Let's talk tackling, and how that starts with Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks, who together have a combined 143 tackles between them through only 7 games. They are averaging a combined 20.4 tackles a game together, or 10.2 per game each player, which is the same as Roquan Smith's average through 8 games. Basically what I'm saying is that whoever is making a play with the ball has a high likelihood of being tackled by either one of these two. And they can also rush the quarterback too. Wagner has 2 sacks. So far in the season, Brooks has 3.5, which is the same as Patrick Queen. Now let's keep moving further back on the defense to a pair in the secondary where one is a highly vaunted veteran and the other is a rookie who's shown extreme promise so far through the first 6 games. Jamal Adams is a name that sparks either frustration or elation, and he's been more of the latter this year, coming back from injury and playing well through 4 games. I've seen a lot of talk from Seahawks fans saying they want him to either spy Lamar, or there's another faction that want him to cover Andrews, and I'll talk a little about which group I think is a little smarter later on when we get to the keys to victory for the Seahawks. Devin Witherspoon has been exactly what the Seahawks were hoping for when they drafted him 5th overall in this year's draft. Tackling, pass breakups, getting into the backfield for sacks, and even a 97-yard pick 6. So Lamar's going to have to be on the lookout for number 21. Finally, we have Gino Smith. And so far this year, Smith has been a little more inconsistent than last year when he began his career revival. He started the year off well, though through the first 4 games, he led the Seahawks to an early 3-1 record, tossing 5 touchdowns to only 1 interception. But unfortunately, over the last 3 games, even though they still went 2-1, Gino has gone backwards with ball security, tossing more interceptions than touchdowns. 5 interceptions and 4 touchdowns, respectively. Gino's game will go as well as the Ravens' pass rush plays. And by that I mean, if the Ravens' pass rush can do to Gino what they did to Jared Goff, it's going to be a frustrating day for Seahawks fans. On the other hand, if he has time, even just getting the ball out quicker to one of his talented playmakers, it's going to make for an interesting back and forth with Seattle's offense and Baltimore's defense. The Ravens do, however, have a pretty decent roster themselves, and we're going to talk about their backfield, where Gus Edwards just had a career day in touchdowns last week with 3, and his highest number of attempts in a game as well at 19. I expect him to get the majority of carries in this game as well, but Lamar will of course chip in as well, and hopefully the rookie running back who hasn't seen the field as much as we would like, but may be in line to play this Sunday. Keaton Mitchell hasn't run the ball yet for Baltimore Ravens, but after his debut in the preseason against the Philadelphia Eagles and a reception for 9 yards earlier, fans have been in heavy anticipation for him to get some snaps in the backfield. It isn't a foregone conclusion that he plays as he's coming back from a minor injury, but in a reply from Jeff Zrebiec on Post-Twitter this past Wednesday, he thinks if Keaton practices in full all week, he has a good shot to play on Sunday, but he does mention it's tough to tell this early in the season. So let's look for that injury report to come out later. Hopefully we can get a designation after that. Now, let's move on and discuss our possibly dangerous 3-headed monster at wide receiver. Now, I love Zay, and so far almost every single Ravens fan that I've spoken with does as well. But while I think he is currently our best wide receiver, I believe what's best for the team is if Lamar gets everybody involved. So you'll remember when we were going over DK Lockett and JSN, the impact from each one of them is magnified if they all have to be accounted for on each play. We've seen this with our own wide receiver group against Detroit, and that's how I think we win this game. I said before the Lions game, we need to set up the run by passing early, and this game is looking like another opportunity to keep a good defense honest by spreading the ball out and keep that box as unstacked as possible in the event Lamar breaks containment, wants to get upfield, or dump it off to Gus or Hill. If our wide receivers are playing well and getting separation, we have a very strong chance of getting up early on this Seahawks team. So obviously the leader of the defense is Roquan Smith, but the veteran leadership provided by Jadeveon Clowney, as well as his absolutely relentless disruption of opponents' offensive line, has been a fairly unexpected part of this team's defensive front. Although Clowney hasn't finished every sack he started or gotten close to, I can all but guarantee that his constant ability to get into the backfield and especially break up the pocket gets in the head of every QB he's faced so far this year. Patrick Queen, while a very good blitzer in his own right, providing 3.5 sacks, is a disruption anywhere on the field, whether it's getting after running backs, dropping into coverage where he's only allowed 1 touchdown all season while being targeted 31 times. Queen, along with Rowe, has been a huge reason why running backs and ball carriers in general have trouble getting past the second level. If the Ravens get disruption behind the line of scrimmage from Clowney and the same consistent level of tackling we've seen all season from Queen, this defense will continue to show in this game why they are one of the best defenses in the league. An area of the field that will be a deciding factor in this game will be in the secondary of the Ravens, where the Ravens DBs and safeties will be squaring up with Seattle's wide receivers. So far this year through 4 games, my favorite Raven, Marlon Humphrey, has not looked as dominant as he has in years past, coming back from a last-minute foot surgery during the preseason. Now, I hear some people saying he does look good and that simply no one's throwing at him, but the eye test tells me that beyond giving up a detrimental touchdown in his first game back against Pittsburgh, which is understandable, he has also simply either been called for pass interference or holding calls or been beat like he was by Hollywood in Arizona. I don't doubt he comes back to full strength sometime during the season, but seeing how he does in this game will give us a better understanding of how far he is into that process. Now, a Raven that isn't coming back from anything, but is playing the best football of his life is Gino Stone, the Ravens safety, that's been filling in for the injured Marcus Williams. Gino has 5 interceptions through 8 games, which is tied for the most through that amount of time with another Ravens safety, Ed Reed, for a franchise record. He's also grabbed 3 over the last 3 games, so I'm just excited to see if he can keep that streak going, in addition to the fact that he's been an excellent tackler in the deep part of the field and in coverage, with a passer rating against him of only 59.1. So the last Raven we're going to cover is, of course, Lamar Jackson, who, as almost everybody knows at this point, can win games with his arms or his legs. But for defensive coordinators, the hard part is trying to figure out which way he's going to beat you on every play. So through 8 games, Lamar has been on pace for over, by the end of the season anyway, he has been on pace for over 3,750 yards through the air, 800 on the ground, a combined 30 touchdowns to only 6 picks. If Lamar can get consistent pass blocking from his O-line, we'll see more games like the one we saw against Detroit and less like we saw against the Steelers. Now, look, I know I'm a Ravens fan, so my opinion might be a bit skewed, no matter how objective I think I am, but having Lamar on the field gives me such a feeling of confidence that even when the rest of the team is inconsistent, there's still a better than 50-50 chance we will win the game simply because of number 8, and I know everyone will be on the lookout for more spectacular plays from him on Sunday. So on the screen now are some of the fun battles to look forward to, and some of these I've already mentioned or referenced, such as the wide receiver battle versus the Ravens secondary, and the Gino versus Gino. But like I told you earlier, I don't think Jamal Adams should spy Lamar. I think he needs to cover Andrews. The reason being, if he can take Andrews away, he takes away Lamar's emergency valve, and that's going to force Lamar to make maybe more ill-advised throws or throws to guys he's not quite as comfortable with, or even scramble out of the pocket. Now, I say all this, but covering Mark and locking him up is no easy task, and I know how good Adams is, but the connection between Lamar and Andrews, that's something that defies conventional coverage. So that's the matchup I'm most looking forward to seeing. Now we're going to cover the keys to victory for both teams, starting with Seattle. So I've only got 4 for each, and there's 2 for offense, 2 for defense. The first is to basically run outside the tackles. Through the middle, you're dealing with Matabike, you're dealing with Pierce, you're dealing with Jones. You've got too many big bodies in the middle. And as good as the running backs are on Seattle's team, getting to the outside, that's going to be key to breaking off large runs. Another one is, as I said before, Gino needs to avoid Gino. For defense, going after the O-line tackles, we've seen some inconsistencies lately from Ronnie Stanley, and Morgan Moses has actually been kind of beat up over the past few games. So I would probably go there. Last part, don't abuse the blitz. Lamar has shown a much better capability at defeating blitzes this year than he has in any year since, mainly because he's able to make his own calls at the line. So he's able to get hot reads set up and basically get out of those blitzes without too much trouble. So for the Ravens' key to victory, the offense needs to be flexible in play calling, and that means adapting quickly. Good offensive line equals we win. Bad offensive line, we lose. For the defense, we need good tackling for 60 minutes. Last week was a little suspect, and defense, please don't get beat over the top. So those are my main keys to victory for both teams, and what I want to see from you guys is some score predictions. I think we got 2 good fan bases here, and I've seen from in the past, the Browns and the Detroit videos, that if a fan base believes in their team, they tend to also get into the comment section a little bit more. So Seahawks fans, I really want to hear from you guys. I know the Ravens fans think we're going to win this game. I think we're going to win this game. My score prediction for this game, as much as I want it to be a big scoring game, I don't think it will be. So my final, I have Ravens winning 27-24. But let me know your guys' predictions below, and I'll talk to you guys again after the game. Stay safe out there. Bye.